What is up, guys, and welcome to the Nexus. Today, we are here for episode 2 of season 2 of the Scanning Officers. I hope everyone is doing really well today, and yeah, really looking forward to delving into some awesome PQ and showdown results. But let's get moving. First of all, Emmy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, very well. It's a good day in London. It's been Monday. Still thinking about this past weekend. Very, very interesting. I cannot wait to dive in, talk about it, talk about our showdowns, Christian Ollie's testing, and obviously the PQs. But how are you, Ollie?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited for the PQs. Me and Chris, like you mentioned, have over the past 2 days probably tested about 20 hours combined.
More. Must be about 30.
Yeah, it's definitely up there.
Yeah, like with the amount we also played offline, like not with each
We're
other.
gonna clip this and then we're gonna have curb your enthusiasm and like have the vlog of you telling the results.
We're gonna go like 0-10 drop.
Yep, neither of us are making top. But at least we decided on deck, so that's good.
True.
How are you doing today, Chris?
I'm good. I'm actually really sad the weekend's over. That's one of the fastest weekends ever gone. Yeah, brutal week for me at work, doing my real job before I can come back and do the shit I love, which is play children's trading card games. Yeah, excited for this weekend. That's the main thing. I'm really excited for this weekend.
All right,
How are you,
great.
Jeff?
So, yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, you must be really good after this weekend.
Yeah, no, I had a great result on Sunday. I played incredibly badly on Saturday, but yeah, came around and went undefeated on Sunday at my local showdown with the Cunning Hahn. So
Badass. We'll talk
Good
about
thing the
that.
PQ this weekend's on Saturday.
absolutely, but yeah,
Otherwise,
Emmy's going to be taking the forefront of this stream. So yeah, take it away, Emmy. Let's go. What you got?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm so happy, or we are happy for you that we're gonna briefly talk about testing with Krish and Ollie. I want to hear more about how they structured it, and hopefully, it's gonna be helpful for folks that are planning to attend one or multiple of the many PQs coming up this month. And then we're gonna talk about the store showdowns. We're gonna have a sneak peek of the undefeated 7-0 list from Josh, which is heavily inspired, by the way, from the deck list that we have now on the channel from Joshua Freeman. So that's gonna
Yeah,
be
Joshua's so good. Thank you for.
is
I mean,
incredible.
what a legend for doing 2 videos within like a month with us. He
Josh
loves it.
Hartman is getting
Thanks
out of
again.
control. These Joshes need to stop colluding because
Yeah,
Josh is
find me
a
another Christian in England, bro. They
it's
don't
all
exist.
about the long-haired English Joshes. That's what it's all about.
And then we're gonna go through PQs. You probably have seen the results, but we have first of all updated results. You've probably seen early results which contained some errors. So gonna give you actual results, and we have some stat
Opinions.
tracking thanks to Krish that we're gonna keep updating throughout the month for each PQs. But without any further ados, Krish and Ollie, I'll ask you first. How was this weekend of testing? Was it as you expected it? And what are the results? Give us some inside scoop.
Yeah, so it was really good fun. And it definitely helped me a lot.
Traumatizing.
I started out going into it kind of thinking like, okay, my options are probably Han ECL and Bosk Blue, and I want to decide by the end of Saturday what my deck is, and then Sunday I can refine my matchups and figure out sideboard.
And I heard this, and I said, "Nah, bro, nah."
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm about to end this man
What about the
career.
third option?
There was a third option, a third hidden option. So yeah, we went into testing, and it was very helpful because Krish over here is like the biggest meta whore you'll ever meet. So he He'll come in with
that, so I have every deck. So I just like, yeah.
he'll come in with 5 deck boxes to a testing session and be like, okay, I've got Boba Green, I've got Boba Yellow, I've got Sabine Green, I've got Kira Green, and then here's a spicy one for you guys. I've got Bosk Blue. Um, and
That's
so
what we're playing
obviously,
against.
all max rarity, all blinged out.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
El
exactly.
Generico.
Not till set
Um,
3. Set 3,
but
this will happen. Set 3, this will be this will be biblically
it
accurate.
will happen. Thank you, Ollie. Krish, can you give us like a bit of insight? So Ollie said that essentially like you brought the gauntlet. How was it for you? And like how did you structure the testing at all? Or was it a bit more like, hey, we're gonna play from X hour to X hour to show up and then we'll figure out?
I think Ollie and I were kind of approaching it from different ends of the spectrum because Ollie was trying to figure out what deck he wanted to play, and I think he was actually probably pretty happy with the lists he had. Whereas I had the opposite thing, where like I was pretty, I knew I was going to be on Boba Green. There was some toss up over whether it was going to be ECL or 30, but I knew I was going to be on Boba Green, and so I really wanted to refine the list. And so it was very good because we had the sort of converging thing where I wanted to run through the gauntlet of meta decks as far as possible, so I could understand how they all played, and that would inform the tech choices that I wanted to include based on rough meta. Whereas Ollie obviously like wanted to figure out what deck he wanted, so the testing was valuable for him because he could see how the matchups went. So we're both kind of getting something valuable out of it. And
I
I
think it
think
was quite funny, that convergence, because like it really reflects both of our approaches to card games, because you're obviously quite happy playing meta decks, whereas I really don't enjoy playing meta decks. I quite like just finding something that fits myself.
well, it's because usually in previous card games, I've actually been like, I was the person to find like well, no, actually that's not true. I think like what I'm really good at is like I'm given like a list and it's starting in a good place. And I have like this selection and I will grind the hell out of it and I will understand the matchups and I'll go, okay, this is why I'm on this. These are the card choices I've made. I'm confident I'm playing this. And I think for me, the reason why I always initially choose, like, don't get me wrong, like you can, the value of the testing is sometimes something really crazy comes up or you realize a particular weakness and like you go, oh, this is something I can target. But the value of playing meta is that like, well, one, we know it's good, and two, um, usually a deck is meta because it's powerful, and it's usually powerful because fundamentally it does something a little bit unfair, and you kind of force everyone else to have to deal with that. So like inherently, right? Like if you're playing Sabine or if you're playing Boba, I think these are the two top decks at the moment. Whatever variant of Boba you're talking about, you can't force someone to come with answers. Whereas I can just sit there and go, okay, what about this? Okay, but what about
Yeah.
this?
I think we're gonna touch on the unfair part because I totally agree. And spoiler alert, we have a video coming out that we recorded with Trevi CCG where we talk about underrated decks for PQ, and in there we talk about the why is not like why are not other people building other decks, and I think what you mentioned is one of the aspects of like, well, there are cards that are unfair. So we're gonna talk about that when we review PQ. If is there actually unfairness in the state of the game right now? But thanks for the testing
One
overview.
One thing I
Yeah.
do want to quickly say though, I think the best way to always start out your testing, I think Ollie and I are both approaching this format having seen a lot of it, and that's not always going to be the case. And in particular, moving forward, as we start actually getting PQs at the start of a format, like you're not going to have a comprehensive understanding. So you need to start out with the gauntlet. Like that's got to be your starting point. Like here's all the good decks from last set. Let's upgrade them. Here's where we think there's potential this set. Let's see what it looks like. And then you get to do what Ollie likes to do, which is like brew something on your own and like really like try and make something work. And sometimes it's going to work, right? Like sometimes you're gonna stumble across this like interaction that people haven't really noticed or people have forgotten about that is like it's kind of like the Boba Green thing, right? Like everyone was like, oh, Boba Green, whatever, like who cares? And spoiler, it did quite well at PQs this weekend. So like it's that kind of thing where like there's a lot to happen there, but I would emphasize for the viewers, find a group, and the more of you the better, to be honest, that you can like of a similar skill level, and grind out that initial because that's what we did Saturday. I think we hit the main gauntlet, and I think both Ollie and I went away from Saturday knowing what we wanted to play, and then Sunday we came back and we were like, okay, we know what we want to play. Let's do some list refinement. Let's just kind of get some more experience in the matchups, get some more experience with the decks, and just also help each other out. Like, I wanted to test against Boba Yellow. I wanted to test against Han ECL. Ollie was happy to do that, and then I was like, okay, I'll be your Sabine matchup, or I'll do whatever have you, right? So
structure it a little bit, essentially.
definitely come with a plan and try and get more than one weekend of testing in if you can.
That's really cool. Yeah, I feel like whilst you were doing that, I think Josh and I approached the testing from a different angle. Briefly, I'll talk about my weekend. I spent Saturday just relaxing and thinking about what I was going to play on the Sunday. And Sunday, we went to, I had it ready here. I want to give a shout out to Dark Fire Cafe in South Auburn. Amazing place, great owners, and we had 18 players. I went and ended up 3-1. I was playing Bosk ECL, and the spread of the decks was pretty interesting. There was a few Boba Greens. I haven't seen a single Sabine. There was a Kylo, maybe one or two Kylos. There was a Boba 2 blue. Was it Boba 2 blue? I believe so. Yes, Boba 2 blue, because it's a green leader. Shout out to Thork, which was the inspiration to that deck. And yeah, it was a good event. Finished fourth. Pretty happy with the deck. It kind of like I ended up playing against a Boba Green, Akira, was that Boba 2 blue, and something else that. Oh yeah, and another Boba Green. So I lost against one of the Boba Greens. So it was effectively testing against some of the mainstream decks, and it opened my eyes on a couple of things that I was thinking about. Now, admittedly, I have two choices, and I'm still undecided for my PQ. But for me, Bosky CL stonks are up, even though we haven't seen a lot of like good results from PQs. But I don't think that's extremely indicative. But yeah, that was like briefly my Sunday. But I want to hear more from Josh and his run.
Hey. I got a little deck list for this, so let's switch over. But yeah, so I just did a video with my good buddy Joshua. He pretty much he did really well at UKTC with this version of the deck. I mean, I play pretty much Han exclusively, mainly because I don't have enough time to test lots of different decks, and I did more testing in the previous set, I would say, but this time around I've just been very busy with IRL, as a lot of people can be sometimes. But yeah, no. So decided to stay dedicated to one kind of build throughout this format, just to see if I could, get better with it. And that's definitely paid dividends. I think, like sticking to one. Normally, I would go and play a lot of others. Don't get me wrong, I have tried a few others, like the new Han leader. Really enjoyed that, and I played Ray a bit as well, which has been fun. But yeah, so pretty much on Saturday I played Element, and I did quite badly with a deck very similar to this one. The main differences being that I played L337, the shielded unit, and I played Gamoran Guards and Syndicate Lackeys, which were all removed in favor of adding Greedo, McClunky, and Cloud Rider. So yeah, I went 7-0 basically over the day. It was like five rounds of Swiss where I went undefeated, and then we did a top four, so then went undefeated on. Try and quickly go through my matchups. I had Boba, the new sort of the new Boba vigilance leader. Kind of the
That's
fork video. Yeah, the one
yeah,
you.
that's the same that I had against then. It seems
Yeah,
it's a legit list. Like
It's been around for a little bit. Like I
yeah.
remember KTOD making a video on it like a month ago or
Oh
something.
really?
yeah.
Yeah, like it's a really scary list. Like
Yeah.
it's super
Yeah, I
underrated.
mean, I thought it was quite cool. It surprised me in game two. I let it go a bit too wide, and managed to take game
And it's
two.
not looping you, and you're like, oh
Um,
no.
but yeah. But then game three, I just went heavy in space, and just did a beat down in space. But yeah, so that game was pretty fun. Shout out to Alexis, who has been on a match on the channel before. Then round two, actually trying to remember what round two was. Oh yeah, Emperor, double green Emperor Palpatine.
Mm.
I just went full gas. He kept playing Sentinels. I kept bouncing them back. And yeah, that was all she wrote. Really, it's a pretty good matchup for me. Probably one of the worst for double green Palp.
Oh,
Round
let's maybe do best matchup, worst matchup, and final. So maybe we can dwell a bit.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm almost there. I mean, I think the hardest matchup I had was round three, which was Boba Green Command. And that was against Sav. Shout out to Sav, one of the judges from UKTC. Pretty tough matchup, but I pretty much used the discards perfectly there. And having the two change of hearts in the main is pretty good against Fire Spray, really. It was like, ironically, he actually lent me his change of hearts, and I took his fire spray with his own change of heart. Yeah, the typical thing. Yeah, there was that. Then the next was the guy I met in the final as well. So I'll get there. And that was double blue Ray. Final round of Swiss was Tarkin. Green Tarkin. I played quite a lot of that because of Ollie and Frankie and a few other guys were testing it early on in this format. So that was pretty easy to dispatch. You just bounce that interceptor. And then we went into the top four cut, and this is where I got kind of lucky because both players were control players. I had Bosk Blue first. It was epic, to be fair, the first game. We were doing 75 minutes.
Ever.
We were doing 75 minutes as well, so it was a long one. But essentially,
You played
game
the whole
one
75 minutes against
for the
Boss Blue?
for the final, I did. For Boss Blue, I
Okay.
didn't because I was playing incredibly quick because I was very conscious that both my playing Bosk Blue, I'd seen him playing earlier in the day, and it was literally like a no unit build where it's like blow everything up constantly until I play an Avenger, and I was just like, this is perfect for me. I've got change of heart ready, waiting for that. But yeah, essentially, game one was insane because he got me to no cards in deck. I was just constantly playing stuff, smuggling stuff, keeping on playing. He just gave up in the end. Then we went again, and just the same thing happened, basically. Being able to play loads of things from Smuggle, I kept stealing energy with DJ, so I ended up having I think on game two, I'm not even lying, I think I had 18 energy or something, 18 resources. So I would just smuggle everything in, pretty much milling myself out. But yeah, no, really good. And then, yeah, the final was just double Blue Ray, and it was a similar deal, although he played a lot of units. And just to put this deck in a nutshell, which you can get mainly from the other video from Joshua, the whole idea of it is to be able to make units 5 damage, turn 2 and 3, and ideally using like jetpack to protect them. So you can easily trade into Sabine, Tech, DJ, any threat that has 5 defense. This deck basically screws that over. And obviously, cunning and stuff, it's very good against aggro. And yeah, the smuggle stuff allows you to play into control. So yeah, I think this is the best way to play Mono Yellow Han. I've tried everything, I think, or most things, most good combinations, and
In
honestly,
playing this.
Yeah, the only
for
difference to Joshua's deck and my deck is I had two Fell the Dragon in the side, which were amazing. Luke Skywalker getting crushed every time he came out because that is such a hard
yeah,
card to deal with. And he had enticing reward as a two of to make the deck 52 cards with better target, which is better than Waylay, apparently. But I decided because my local meta actually has a lot of Bosk players, I went for Waylay so that I could, do the old cheeky bounce back and screw people over kind of deal. But yeah, no, that was about it. I'm really pleased with the results. Thank you, Joshua, for the deck, and I'll probably play this at the weekend, I imagine.
Huge congrats. Yeah, amazing finish. And yeah, if you guys want a like in-depth review and understanding on how to play this game, kind of like step by step, you're gonna find the link down below in the comments or description to the interview with
Yeah, and just so you know, a lot of the stuff that he talked about in the most recent video applies to every deck, I think, not just this deck. Like the fundamentals are
yeah,
very strong. The guy is extremely talented player, so I would eat
yeah,
up
the
that
level of
knowledge if you can, because it helped me. That's for sure. I literally
okay.
I re-listened to the thing we did on the bus on the way to the tournament. And then, yeah, that was all I needed. I felt so confident all day from it. But
Yeah, the level of
all right.
insight and the fact that he during the interviews he replays all his games, and this was recorded like a week after the tournament,
Yeah.
where in between he has been prepping for a European for FFG, sorry, for Final Fantasy, which he also
Which
did
he got
top
top
four.
four
So
at, by the way.
congrats on that.
Yeah, top
He
four
was
got a paid
walking
trip to Japan.
He's cracked. He's
Yeah,
cracked.
he was
He's
walking like play by play on like what his game were. He was like, in my hand I had X, Y, Z. I was like, how could you remember that? Yeah,
Man, I mean, if you look at my face during that video, I'm like
yeah,
that, that meme with the woman where she's got loads of equations around her head and she's
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
staring into space. It's really good insight, and that's why I had to listen back to it because it's a lot to take in.
Too
But yeah,
much in one go.
the
Yeah,
guy's a genius, honestly, and it will really help your
yeah,
play. Go check out his blog and stuff. The links are all in the description for those videos.
absolutely.
But yes,
So
shall we move on
yeah,
to the
let's do that.
PQ results? I'm going to get up. Doing a
Yeah,
quick cut
I
there.
I will let Krish lead here because
Yeah, this is
thank you
Krish's
for
work, so thank you very much,
putting all
Krish,
the
for
data
this.
together.
Of course.
But I think maybe we can focus specifically on like the key themes, insights, and like what are the main takeaways without like going through all of this because we had quite a few PQs, some larger, some smaller. But yeah, Krish, what do you got for us?
So, I mean, look, if you just want the results, sorry, I've just italicized those because it looks nicer. Here's your screenshot. And I think one thing I do want to flag that has been widely reported incorrectly, including on my own channel, is Boba Yellow won Spain, not Boba Green. So just want to flag that. If we go over to Josh, if we go over to the charts section of the sheet, so the tab on the bottom, this is basically like a summary of the information, slightly more digestible format. So let's look at what the takeaways here are. And I think if you've been following the format, and indeed, I mean, well, first, quickly, one, thank you to SWU Competitive, Star Wars Unlimited Competitive Database, I think it's called. Star Wars Unlimited
Competitive Hub.
Competitive Hub, that's it. Shout outs to
Yeah.
you guys. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. It is incredibly valuable, super important. Deck lists, all that sort of stuff. Check out on the link in the description. I'm sure Amy's going to put it there. Absolute MVPs.
Really appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Amazing. And thank you to Mark from Unlimited Power TCG. Shout out last week, but every week, basically, he just does like a meta wrap up. And I thoroughly recommend you subscribe to his channel for that.
He's a wonderful man. You gotta go follow him. Yeah.
Incredible amount of work to do that.
We need to get him on here. We need to get him on here at some point.
We do. We do.
Shout out, Mark. If you watch this, comment and we'll get you on. We'll know you're watching.
Like, subscribe. Otherwise, we won't.
Exactly.
But so if you've been following those in the UK, but even just in general, I think if you've been paying attention to the way the format's been shaking out, some of these shouldn't be really surprising. Now, if we look at the top eights, Boba Green being 18% of the top eights is surprising if you have basically turned your brain off to what's been happening in Europe, right? This is basically like an American result set. And I think not in a disparaging way. I don't mean this disparagingly, because I think the exact same applies to European players. We tend to, especially for a game that's relatively small. I mean, this is a big game, definitely, but it's not like Yu-Gi-Oh or something. For a relatively, or Magic, right? Like, this is not like a solved game. So local metas tend to be much more of a thing, and in particular, regional metas tend to be more of a thing. And people are not necessarily super clued in or dialed into like what's happening overseas. So what I think we saw happen here was the Boba Green deck that basically Alex Hancock's and Josh Freeman Birch popularized in the UK. Alex went to America, got like 2 finalizer mats with it, I think, and then Josh won a whole damn like 170-man regionals with it. Very similar cause. Made the splash in the US, basically going, no, this isn't the Europeans mucking about. There's really some source here. And so that's why we see this 18% top 8, because like the deck is unequivocally tier 1. It's incredibly strong.
UK number 1.
UK number 1. We also see, well, potentially, I don't know, the Spanish and the French are cooking. We'll
get there. We'll get there.
But so Sabine ECL, of course, also on 18%, and Boba Yellow on 11%, and Boba ECL on 2%. So, and obviously Boba Tarkintown, whatever the hell happened on Sunday, sending Boba Tarkintown stonks through the roof with a 5% top 8 rate. So let's talk about that slice of the pie, right? If we look at the Bobas and Sabine, that is more than 50% of the tops. If you are surprised by this, I ask, have you been paying attention? Not only are these decks incredibly powerful, we knew Sabine was the premier aggro deck of the format. We knew Boba was the premier slightly more tempo-y aggro to more tempo-y, mid-rangey like styles, depending on when you went, how far along the spectrum of yellow to ECL to green you went. We knew this, right? The middle, like the early to the middle of like that line of aggression to control was firmly occupied by these 2 leaders just doing insane stuff and being very, very powerful, right? Let's throw in the Sabine yellow as well. I don't know if it's actually not on the, you can't actually read it on the graph, but that was there too. That was one of those. Yeah, these decks are obviously insane because they are, 1, tried and tested. So if this is the first, remember, for most Americans, this is the biggest event they have had the opportunity to go to, right? They had Gen Con. A lot of them wouldn't have been able to go. So really, this might be the biggest event they've gone to so far. And they're not going to muck about.
Sorry to interject. Do we know roughly like the average amount of players were playing
20.
these PQs?
20. 2 of them were about 50, but the rest were 110, 120. So like big tournaments, definitely.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Like UK Games Expo size and Gen Con size. So like
about 100, yeah. And the one in Spain was 120.
Yeah. And so like
they cap at 128, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so when you're going to a tournament that size, I think like you're going to take what you're most confident in being good, and that's likely going to be one of the tried and tested leaders. I'll briefly, I think, Emmy, we mentioned it earlier, touch on the sort of unfairness factor as well, just while we kind of explain why these decks are so good. Sabine and Boba both fundamentally do something unfair. That thing that's unfair is different now than it was in set 1. In set 2, the unfair thing that Sabine does is it goes, okay, ECL Po, ECL Timely Wrecker, or like ECL Wrecker, Timely Po. Absolutely backbreaking, like really, really hard to manage. Oh, sorry, Flip Darksaber. Forgot about that, right? Like the whole Sabine curve has completely shifted in set 2. It went from something that was scary, but once you controlled board, you were largely fine, to, oh, even if you control board, if they just ECL Wrecker, you might still be dead. So these are like, the deck got like this unfairness factor where sometimes it just sees a stupid curve, and what are you going to do, right? Like, literally, you can't do anything sometimes. Boba, meanwhile, gets Boba Fett's armor. Okay.
It seems like Control's really taken a hit in these top 8s.
Absolutely.
Kira's there, but that's about it, right? Really, as far as the harder control.
No, that's not strictly true. There's a couple others, which I'll come to in a second.
To be seen as well.
Yeah. Well, no, Iden should be there. But the it's probably like
Iden won one event although it was slightly smaller, and I believe we've got a report that there was no boba in that whole tournament, and
Oh
apparently
wow!
was because
What? I want to play
everyone
there.
Well,
everyone
I doubt
was
it was no Boba, but it was probably like a very small amount. But yeah, like Boba Fett
yeah.
in set 2 goes, okay, cool. Either I ramp and then I flip,
Mm,
and I flip, I Boba's armor, I swing, and I OB. Or
mm,
I'm playing Boba Yellow, in which case I like am playing, I'm double cunning you, or I'm like Boba's arming, or I'm like Bazini, or I'm doing like something unfair. But Boba's armor is like the kind of like the big unfair thing. And obviously it's a 4/7 that comes out on 5. It is the best, most efficient like 5-drop leader in the game. So like these are the unfair things. Fine. We knew these existed, these were known quantities. So what's happened with the rest of the tops that we can talk about that's interesting? Obviously Boba Tarkin Town, seeing success is really interesting because this is a deck that like we knew existed. There was a thing that people were experimenting with at the start of the format because what happened was we saw Kylo, we went, oh, this is an aggro deck. Oh, let's try Kylo Yellow. Oh, look, we can just go all space. Boba does this better because we have Fire Spray.
yeah.
As a tale as old as time, we discover a really cool deck, Vader Blue, and realize, oh, Boba does this exact same thing but better because Fire Spray. So fine.
Someone actually had a Boba Tarkin Town at my showdown. They came fifth, incidentally, and
Yeah.
it was just taking people by surprise, right? Very very heavy on the space side. Ruthless Raider doing a lot of work in that deck. Really
Yeah, and
It
dangerous.
I think
is
the other
there to be
unfair,
very uninteractive.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
deck.
Yeah. And
the
so, like,
other,
if you don't have something like OB, like, you can just get, like, cooked. But that's why we have, when the control decks fall off, I think decks like that can suddenly see a huge amount of success because they can outrace when they're just not getting interacted with, right? But
There's one
to your
thing
point earlier with, sorry.
there's one thing I wanted to add on that, and not
Yeah.
to like slander Boba too much, because I think like we're all on this same kind of page. But like on top of those unfair things, there are inherently like good things that come with playing Boba, which is insane stats for flip a 5 as a 4/7. And the color in itself, yellow cunning, has some of the best cards in the game. So
Especially Cunning
you know,
Villainy, yeah.
Especially
yeah,
Cunning Villain. Yeah.
exactly.
You're spoiled for
So
choice.
yeah, so just all those elements combined make it so it's possible for
And Fire
this,
Spray.
top 8 graph to exist where
And Fire Spray.
every single color of boba is represented.
Yeah.
And I think it really like raises a flag of like, okay, you want to make a competitive game that's also, a game that is designed for draft. So some leaders are going to be better for draft, although some get designed for draft and then go into competitive or structure like Bosk.
Bosk.
But like the fact that 5 decks, 5 leaders out of how many? Is it 18 now?
No,
Or
it's,
even more?
I think it's 36 leaders we have in the game right now.
36, yeah, whatever. That should ring a bell, especially now that these are official FFG events that are starting right now. So I'm sure they're gonna like, based on the fact that they've listened to the feedback on the pricing. I'm hoping that they're looking at this. Not
What
specifically,
what
well,
what
obviously,
exactly do you want to happen, Emmy? As far as Boba goes and Sabine,
I
because I
think
mean, my opinion of it is I think it's fine as is. They are gatekeeper decks, but it's kind of like you build to beat them essentially.
it's fine. I think what needs to happen is that set 3 needs to have a
A
bit of
shake up, yeah.
power creep. Yeah, either power creep or yeah, something that really like
On that front, though, I mean, coordinate really doesn't look very good at all, and a lot of the units that bonus from coordinate seem like worse than standard units that cost the same.
And
Not
funnily
the
enough, that makes hard control worse, right? Because we go wide, so like Power of the Dark Side, Avenger, all those like 1-for-1 cards are not gonna be as good, right? So if anything, Boba is gonna be stronger because control is gonna be weaker if these token decks are
But
gonna get.
that's the thing. There's no payoff to playing coordinate because the coordinate effects are worse than cards that already exist in the game. I mean, I know there's more cards to be revealed.
Yeah, let's
but
not get too
just
sidetracked on like
Yeah,
what
we're getting a bit too
right
deep
now
right
because
now.
like
Yeah.
I mean if we had recorded this like halfway through set 2 reveals, like I think we all would have said like some
Yeah,
really
that's fair.
shit things about like Bosk being unplayable or
Yeah.
something.
But you can't,
I don't know, but I do. You
avoid
have
like
touched on something.
speculating when you see these kind of results, right?
No, absolutely. But you have
Maybe-
touched on something really important, Emmy, which I
Yeah.
think like one of the things that I find so frustrating about these discussions when I see them online is it reeks of people have not played a card game before. I think a lot of the time, like they think the solution is just to like look, none of these leaders need a ban. If you think like these leaders are ban worthy, one, you've not played another card game. You don't know what a ban worthy like thing actually looks like. Because if I'm looking at a top 8 chart and it's this diverse, I don't think that's a problem. Like, yeah, okay, maybe the wins are like looking a little skewed this week, but it's been one weekend. It's only been 6 events. I mean, there's 12 this upcoming weekend, 12 PQs. So, like, let's take a breather there. But the thing I really want to talk about, we are in set 2 of the card game, and there's a card game where the way deck building works is you kind of take 2 packages and mush them together, right? Like, you take your white-yellow package and you mush it together with your green-yellow package, and that's how you make your deck. And that's true for every single leader. That's how the deck building works. And when you think about it from that way, and you look at the card design that they have given to all these different color combos, you look at the leaders they've printed, and you realize that, like, actually, there's really not that many cards in the game. You get this polarizing effect where, like, some of these packages are just naturally more well supported than others, right? Like, for example, red, green, black. Sorry, blue, black, green. The only way to build that right now is control. There isn't really a better option because like you're lacking the tools to try something aggro, and so naturally a lot of leaders get locked out from that perspective. So that's just I think I want to flag is like you can talk about banning the leaders, but fundamentally the card. The way the card sport is right now. Okay, let's say you ban Boba. We're just gonna play a similar deck with CAD, right? Or when set 3 comes out with Django, we're just going to play like a very similar deck and it's just going to be Django instead, right? Like, so I think like it's one thing that's worth bearing in mind. I think like I'm sick of it.
I have to say I didn't say ban.
No, I know. Sorry.
You're
you dragging up like my trauma from like reading all these online discussions about how Boba needs a ban.
I've already seen.
I'm like, what do you think is going to happen? Like a new aggro deck is just going to pop up that does the same thing.
Let's revert back to the other tab and maybe we can wrap it up. I want to see because in the first tab we have essentially we're gonna track week by week the winners.
Yeah, well, we've got the winner chart here that we should just touch on quickly.
Yeah,
so, like,
because we see it in percentage, but yeah, in the other tab we had it in numbers. Maybe we can look at it there. So here, we have been tracking weekend 1, and these are the tops, and then we have the wins. So we have 1 Boba Yellow. So if you scroll down, Josh, in this second section, awesome. Ollie, do you want to go through this? I just want to wrap up, kind of looking at like what won, and I want us to give us a prediction of who's gonna win PQ, like which list is gonna win PQ in Sheffield this weekend.
Yeah, of course. So it looks like so far we've got 1 win from Boba Yellow and 3 from Boba Green. And then it goes down to 1 win from Old Han Green, the set 1 Han. 1 win from Iden Blue. And I think that's all of them, right?
Yeah, that's the 6, yeah.
Yeah. So lots of representation from Boba Green there in the wins. And I think it is a good deck that once you make top cut, you're in a good position to win with it.
Yeah. Also remember, like, this deck was not getting the respect it deserved in America because it hadn't really made the big splash there. And this is its weekend making a big splash. So like now people are going to come equipped with a game plan, whereas like, maybe they just weren't aware of it before. And, maybe this is where we see. Well, okay, spoiler. Josh, what do you think? What's your pick? What's your pick to win?
It's hard to gauge. I honestly think that players are really important here, and there is some serious players coming along. Um, Joshua will be there, as well as you guys. So do you know what I mean? It, it's hard to gauge. I think Boba definitely has an edge, and the best players are playing Boba when they're trying to win tournaments. That makes me, that makes me believe that it is the best. But at the same time, I think there's still chances for other decks to win if people have done their homework. Don't
Which,
get me wrong.
which Boba do you mean? Yellow, ECL, or green?
I think green. I think the green sort of almost mid-range to control deck where it starts to heal a lot in the late game, becomes just really hard to finish off. I think if piloted well, it's pretty hard to beat. And I think the only way to really beat it is to just for them to not see overwhelming barrage. I think that's my strategy anyway. I'm being honest, and Sab didn't see it when I played him at the weekend, and it just it's like me not seeing cunning basically. But yeah, really hard. Overwhelming barrage is super powerful card. I think still champion that is the best card in this game, and as a player that plays mainly rebel side, it's my tragic flaw really. It loses me a lot of games.
We had a very similar conversation when we were testing this weekend, especially when I was testing Han ECL as a pick into Boba Green. It was literally just like, if you see Overwhelming Barrage, I'm at a massive disadvantage. If you see the second one, I'm just picking up my cards.
Yeah. The first one stabilizes, the second one wins the game. It's like an age-old story of overpowered cards.
Because you imagine a format without OB, and you're like, oh, so all these go wide decks just become completely toxic because there is absolutely no out.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong.
You imagine, maybe I play my Falcon and I just go boop 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 and I win.
Oh, it's it's an absolutely necessary evil. Don't get me wrong. And
no, I'm with you. It's a card that sometimes, like when they drop,
you have to play. You have to play. You have to play around it. Honestly, if you're playing Command Imperial side, you have to get units off the board as quick as possible. Otherwise, you're just asking for it. There's no two ways about it. But that's one reason I do like Han, because I can get rid of those OBs with Bodhi and Spark. And I think that makes it a bit easier for me if I can snipe them out. But yeah. And Sabine as well, I think, has the potential to win. It's a bit more high rolly though than Boba Green. I think Boba.
We love our Sabines here as well in Europe. I think.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if like a good chunk. I mean, it wouldn't surprise anyone, but I think notoriously European TCG players like more like control decks, and now that Bosk Blue is a thing, I think I'm expecting quite a few Bosk Blue.
Yeah, my takes aren't that hot. Sorry, I mean, to be honest, like I can't really see anything else that can take it down. Like maybe Kira. Anything that utilizes overwhelming barrage to a perfection could possibly take down today, and that does, I guess, includes like some Bosk builds and stuff like that. I know you're talking about Bosk Blue, but yeah, I mean, I just think that anything that utilizes overwhelming barrage can definitely win a tournament.
That's the reality of it. Ollie, what do you think?
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm on the side of Villainy Control. In some form, I think is going to do really well. Probably win this weekend. So I agree that Bosk Blue is probably a good pick, but I'm going to go for something a little bit different because I got to stay confident in myself. So I'm going to put out there that Hondo is going to take it.
Good man.
Me. He's putting his hat in the ring for the tournament win.
We've done some hardcore testing, some revisions this weekend.
Hopefully next week we'll be sitting here with you with the Hondo crown on. That would be wild.
We'll see.
I'm gonna hedge my bet. So I want to talk about an American win and a European win because I think the European one's going to be different.
Mm.
I think
Switch to the other screen.
so. I think what's happened is America is through no fault of their own. I don't think through a lack of good players or anything, but through just not having as many major tournaments.
A lot
as
of our
well.
viewers are American, by the way, so be careful what you
Listen,
say.
there's a lot of mine too. Look, fundamentally, you guys have just not had the same number of big tournaments that we've had in the run up to this. So I don't think I think Boba Green caught a lot of people off guard because then most people aren't like as dialed into what's happening across the pond. Totally normal, right? Like we do videos on this shit. Obviously, we know, but most players going to a PQ are not going to know. And so that's why I think this weekend, what we saw happen in response to the Bobas in Europe, Bosk Blue, I think that's going to happen in the US. I think we're just going to see a fat whack of Bosk Blue. I think we're going to see maybe not Bosk Blue, but like Bosk Blue or Kira. I think we're just going to see a load of those doing quite well. I will say, Kira, like Boba Green, is probably Kira's an easier matchup for Boba Green than Boba Yellow, in my opinion. So maybe it is just going to be Bosk Blue. But that's my pick for the US. My pick for the UK is Boba Green because I'm on it. But also because I think that people in the UK really like just playing the decks that they have learned. And I think in particular in Star Wars, it definitely feels like you can get rewarded for that. And so it's sort of just like, I think a lot of people will have put a lot of time and effort into learning their decks. They're not necessarily going to care about what's just happened in the US.
Guys,
They're not
this is
really
Krish gaslighting you from playing Bosk Blue because he doesn't want it because he's
I don't
playing
mind if you
Boba
play.
Green.
I don't mind if you play Boss. This is the
So
thing, right? Like
play
if you,
Bosk Blue.
but this is the thing, right? Unless you've got like 30 hours at least on the deck, like at least like you need a lot of games on like
No, just wing it. Just put the deck.
Right.
I'll put the link. I'll put the link of the list. Just put it together and show
And
up.
you're
It's
giving his
so
exact
funny. It's so
checklist
funny
for
because
everyone to rock up with.
bro, it's so funny because I think like we were testing Boss Blue against like Sabine, and Ollie was like, "Yeah, man, I think I don't know if I'm going to be on Boss Blue, but I want to try this." And then it was brutal, and he was like, "Oh, I kind of see why this doesn't like win every event." And I'm like, "Yes, because Sabine is a thing that exists.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. Like top target double claim is ridiculous, but
I also don't think I was very good on the deck personally.
well, but no, you just pick it up and play, man. You just pick it up and play. Anyway, that's why I think
Yeah.
I don't think the results from this last weekend are going to massively inform people's deck choices in the UK for this weekend because I don't think people are really paying that much attention to what's going on across the pond. I think like they'll be tangentially aware of it, but like it's 3, 4, 5 days in advance. No one's really going to be able to pivot like comfortably. I think if your PQ is the week after, I think you are probably looking now. You're like, okay, I've got a weekend. I can figure stuff out. But I think I'm locked in. I think a lot of other people are locked in. So my pick is Boba in Europe.
I'm very excited for this weekend, as I'm sure we all are, and for the rest of this month that is just kicking off with all these PQs. So look forward to this weekend in Sheffield. If you're in the UK and you're coming, come say hi if you want to say hi to us. And
Definitely. Don't
look
forget to
forward
like
for-
and subscribe, guys. Comment, like, and
Yeah.
subscribe.
Thank you so much.
We're really trying to push the channel at the moment, and you guys are
Yes.
really helping us with
Yeah.
that. So
Thanks for the love and look forward for more content from us. But until then, this was the Nexus. See you next time.
Goodbye.
bye bye.